Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Droid Life Show. We are now in episode 9, so we're getting close to that 10 mark. But anyways, I'm Kellen. We got the whole Droid Life team, Ron, Eric, and Tim. Why don't everybody say hi?
Hello, world.
Hey. Yo.
So yeah, Droid Life Show. Again, lots of stuff to talk about tonight. But before we start, I want to talk about just a couple announcements. We're doing, as many of you know, a ton of contests right now. So all this week, Google is sponsored basically 5 days of contests. We've got 32 gigabyte HSBA Plus Nexus 7s coupled with $25 Google Play gift cards that we're giving away, one each day for this week. We've had some really cool contests, actually. Monday we did Android haikus. Tuesday we did just Android random art that you could create. Today we did panoramic pictures, and some of you guys have done some really, really cool stuff, so we really appreciate that. Next week we're going to have a whole bunch of tablets to give away from our friends at NVIDIA, so stay tuned for that. But for now, we're still doing Google Play gift cards and tablets, so get in on those. We got 2 more tomorrow and Friday. Then the other announcement is, I guess we could just call it a podcast, I guess. I've tried to avoid this word. I don't know why. But we are, official now. There's actually an official podcast subscription feed. You can sign up. We're on iTunes. We're on Stitcher. So you can basically get us on anything on the go from anywhere. I know you guys have been requesting this. Sorry it took so long. But yeah, we're there. So we're all official. And actually, if you go to droid-life.com/show, there's a whole page dedicated to it with subscription links. And every show just gets posted automatically there, of course, once I upload it. So anyway, yeah, so you can follow us along if you don't watch us live. Be sure to do that. So
can't we call it like a droid cast, maybe, so we don't have to use the word pod? Just like a droid cast.
Yeah, but the word droid's just.
I like that word.
I know we're called Droid Life, but we're kind of played. That's kind of played out, isn't it?
Is it really? I've never heard the word.
No, droid. No, just the word droid in general.
Oh, in general, definitely.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, we could call it a droid cast if we really want to go that cheesy.
Hey, man.
So those are our 2 announcements to start the show, but let's jump right into one of the hot topics that came up last night. So Tim and I have been referring to this as Android on Android crime, and it was Motorola took out, well, they posted up on Facebook this quote that said, "Don't get caught downloading in the wrong galaxy," or something like that, and something about the Razr HD downloading faster than the Galaxy S3, and it was this sort of attack campaign against Samsung. And as far as I can recall, this is one of the first times we've seen sort of an Android OEM going after another one. And so it kind of surprises. And I threw it up last night, and it's got I think almost 300 comments. I mean, you guys are having a field day with this. So I just thought we should talk about how is it weird now to see, an Android OEM going after another rather than Apple, or should we just expect it now? I mean, Samsung's sort of on top of the world. Are we going to see more of it? Do you like it? Do you hate it? I don't know, Tim. What are your thoughts on Motorola v. Samsung?
That was actually my first initial thought, because in my eyes, it's not Apple's iPhone that's kind of reigning supreme over the mobile whole ecosystem. And instead, you have the Galaxy S3, and I think that Motorola and other OEMs are kind of realizing that. And so instead of going after the iPhone, which has already been beat out by the Galaxy S3, and whoever wants to think that is fine, then that's good. I'm kind of happy that Motorola took the route instead of just continuing the whole bashing on iPhone thing. They're 2 completely separate systems. I don't even really compare them anymore to myself, so I'm happy with what Motorola is doing.
Does it feel like they're crossing or breaking some unwritten rule or something? I don't. It seems weird to me, and maybe this has just happened before and I haven't paid attention to it. But it came out of nowhere, and they compared the battery life. They said it's better. They said the Razr HD is made with better materials because it has fancy Kevlar, and the design. The funny thing is there was this picture. It was the design of the Razr HD versus the Galaxy S3, and they bloated the Galaxy S3, made it all bubbly and thick, and it didn't even look like the phone. It was pretty silly. But I don't know, Ron or Eric, do you guys have any thoughts on the Motorola and Samsung sort of thing? I mean, Samsung hasn't had a chance to come back at them. Not that they need to, but do you guys care that Motorola is doing this?
I mean, Motorola has definitely had a history of at least threatening to go after OEMs. There's a story a while back that they were talking about suing a bunch of the other OEMs. This was before Google had purchased them. And some had speculated that's maybe why Google purchased them, to stop them from doing horrible things to the ecosystem. So they kind of have a history, rumored at least, but a history of doing this. So, I mean, from that perspective, that's a little bit, it's kind of par for the course for them in a lot of ways. But at the same time, it becomes a little bit more complicated because they're owned by Google now. So I'm a little bit curious if this was, we're still kind of in this in-between period where they have a lot of things that were planned beforehand under Ja that are probably still coming out, like all the razors and stuff like that. We're obviously not influenced by Google at all. They've had these phones in the pipeline for a while. So it's not clear if something like, if they had maybe like invested a bunch of money in this and was already going forward at this point or not. There's a lot of murky waters with that just because acquisitions take a long time. But that whole aspect of it is interesting. Obviously, Google could pull the plug and still been fine financially at any point. So obviously they gave the go ahead. But it raises a lot of issues in that regard. And we had similar comments from who was it? Was it Bryn? So whoever gave the interview. It was either Bryn, it had to have been Bryn because I don't think
Larry. It was Larry. I think it was Larry Page. You talking about the one from this week? It was Larry Page.
Yeah, we're talking about Nexus hardware. Okay, it was Page. Oh, he finally got over his voice problems. That's good.
Yeah.
Talking about whether or not we're going to see some Motorola Nexus hardware at some point, and that they haven't had the company for long enough. So I mean, there is some tension there, and I think that's something that should be pointed out. We have not had a Motorola Nexus. We've had 2 Samsung Nexus devices, or Nexi. So, but I do think they raised a lot of good points. I mean, I do think the Razrs are superior hardware overall. I do like their design more than the Galaxy S3's design, even if it was a little.
Those are fighting words.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. But it seems really interesting. And like, is HTC gonna do this now? Is LG gonna do it?
I don't think HTC's in the position to be calling people out right now.
Probably.
LG will do it if Samsung does, though.
Oh, yeah.
If Samsung attacks themselves, then LG will attack them too. Yeah. Eric, what are your thoughts on it?
I don't really mind it that much. I kind of see it as a little, like Tim was saying, a little bit more of a mature move from Motorola, instead of everybody, we're fighting against the man, we're the Android underdogs fighting against the iPhone, now we're kind of realizing that we have competition in our own ecosystem, and I don't mind it. I mean, I highly doubt that anybody from Google sent a word down and said, all right, we're going after Samsung to make, Motorola products desirable. But that is interesting, though.
Maybe Motorola's just
I do think that's at least an interesting idea to look at it from that perspective of, is Google perhaps, they talk about how they want to have their own version of Android, obviously being successful with their Nexus devices, and we have no idea what they'll do with Motorola, and Motorola could potentially be a platform for them to push their own version and services on top. Samsung's always pushing their own stuff on top of what Google's already putting out. Like with S-Voice, that's technically a competitor to Google now and that kind of thing. So this could be something where it did come from Google, and they're saying, okay, we're going to use our company to push back against this OEM that, obviously they're getting a lot of success, but success for Samsung does not necessarily mean direct success for Google.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry I got kicked again. The only other thing I thought of was, it seems like it's smart for Motorola to do something different. You guys kind of touched on this, but rather than blending in with the crowd, they kind of need to stand out at this point. So if you attack the guy, not necessarily on your team, but if you go after Samsung rather than Apple, at least you're doing something different than somebody else is at this point, which they probably need to. So, all right, let's move on from that to talk about 2012. So 2012 was the year of, is basically what we asked earlier this week in a poll. We brought up Jelly Bean, Galaxy S3 and Note 2, the new Nexus lineup, including Nexus 4, 10, and 7, quad-core devices, because we saw a whole bunch of those, higher quality, HD displays, including a 1080p display. Verizon Share Everything, basically just share data plans in general, or could it be something else? And the top 3 topics were Jelly Bean at 26%, the Galaxy S3 and Note 2 at 25%, and then the new Nexus lineup at 23%. So I think last year, Tim, do you remember what the results were from last year? It was a little bit different. I think like Jelly Bean was like in the middle of the pack. Obviously, we didn't know about the Galaxy S3 necessarily, or this whole new Nexus lineup. But I can't remember what was at the top. Was it like quad-core processors, or LTE, or something? I can't remember what it was. You know?
Yeah, it was quad-core processors, like the first batch of quad-core phones. I forget what phone was coming out where we were like, oh my god, quad-core. But it was something that had everyone really excited.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, on that list was Honeycomb on tablets. So we had no idea what the hell we were talking about.
No idea.
Like,
Oh yeah, so I've got it up. The first batch of quad cores was at 24%. Then something else was at 13. More NFC technology was on there. Jelly Bean was
like,
on there.
NFC's totally dead now. Like,
Yeah.
come on. Well, until the iPhone 5S, and then we're good to go. Yeah.
So I thought it was interesting. I mean, it seems like every year it should be whatever the newest version of Android is. I mean, every time Google announces a new version of Android, we all sort of freak out and go, when are we going to get it on this phone and that phone? Yada. So when you look at the poll now, it doesn't seem that surprising. I don't know what the hell we were thinking last year when we asked everyone it would be. So anybody surprised by any of that Jelly Bean was number one, or that the Galaxy S3 and Note 2 are up there?
Yeah, sorry, Eric, go ahead.
I don't know why the Note 2 is up there.
Because it's coupled with the Galaxy S3. That's the only reason I think you're
okay.
going to see the Note 2 up there.
People love the Note 2.
They might love it, but I'm sure not as many people have it as like the Galaxy S3. There's no way.
Yeah, no way.
So, yeah, don't worry about the Note 2. It just came in the winner's circle by default.
Piggybacked.
It definitely piggybacked.
I think that bullet point was more of Samsung in general dominating everything.
Yeah.
But the Nexus lineup, I mean, I don't know that when you put it on a poll, I don't know that it's surprising to see it towards the top, but I think we were all surprised that we got all of the Nexus stuff that we got.
Yeah, I would say Nexuses should have been the top.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember when that first rumor was that there was going to be multiple Nexus devices. I think it was like early or like spring, maybe. I can't remember when that was. And that was sort of the first we had even heard that there could be multiple. And sure enough, we got multiple. We didn't get 5 like everyone, like Wall Street Journal reported, but we got 3.
That would have been so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's back in May.
Was it back in May? Yeah. So it was just an interesting poll. Quad-core phones were down at 4th at 8%. I just think they're in every phone now, so no one... Well, not every phone, but they're in enough phones now, it's just not as big of a deal. And then, higher quality displays. We got a 1080p display, but we've had 720p displays since the Galaxy Nexus last year, so they're just kind of standard now. It's kind of interesting to think that all that stuff's standard. And like a year ago, we were like, dual-core. I don't know. It's been kind of a fast year, that's for sure.
It has been. Our standards as consumers has gone up tenfold, I think, in terms of, like, say, from the OG to what we're at now.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, I demand certain things, and say if I was buying a phone 2 years ago, like, none of these things that I demand now would have been on a phone back then. I think that's pretty funny.
It is fun. I'm just kind of worried, like, where are we going to go now? We've talked about this a little bit, but
yeah, we touched on that.
We've got 1080p displays. We've got quad core. We got LTE, unless you have a Nexus. But we've got. I don't want to say we don't have anywhere to go, but
I want an octo core. That's the only way for me to go.
That doesn't even exist in a computer, does it?
Yeah.
Probably not.
I mean, probably not in like mass production. You can
get 16s. I mean,
that's just ridiculous.
You can't be able to get 8.
If somebody builds an octo-core phone, I'm never buying it. That's
Whatever.
I know that's a lie, blatant lie.
It's probably already out in Japan, dude. We just don't know about it.
Yeah, 8 cores and 8 screens.
Yeah, this is just a random thought, but what was the phone? Did you guys see it was called like the Yodo phone or something? And it was like dual screen. I don't even know where
the
it
Russian
came from.
phone.
Is that what it was? Russian?
It's Russian, and I'm really excited about it because it's Russian.
I'm really excited about it.
When does Russia build smartphones? And
Since
it's like
now, and it's going to be awesome.
it was dual screened and
Yeah.
Yikes!
That's going to be great.
Yikes! Dual screen.
They had like if they really went for it and had like a Lenin version and a Stalin version, like just really like.
Oh, see.
Oh man, that'd be so good. Lenin didn't kill that many people. Don't get all complaining face.
Whoa, whoa, whoa!
It's a fact. He didn't kill that many people. Don't take a drink to avoid a comment, Kyle. Come on.
Dude. I'm moving way out of that subject. Let's talk about Google Wallet. Let's talk about Google Wallet for a minute. So over a couple days ago or yesterday, a user at XDA posted up an FCC complaint response that Verizon sent back to him after he had complained that Verizon's been blocking Google Wallet. And the response said, we don't block Google Wallet, which now they don't, but they actually used to. They used to tell Google to block it. So it's kind of a lie. But now they don't. You can actually install it on any NFC phone of theirs. You just can't use it. When you open it up, it says your phone's not compatible on this carrier. So they're still technically blocking it. And then the letter went on to say Google just needs to change their app. If they want it to be approved and working, they need to be like the PayPal app and the Square app and like all these other payment systems, which totally defeats the purpose, right? Because they said that the NFC and the secure battery and the secure chip and all that, they don't want any part of it right now, even though they're building their own service that does the same thing. So it was like a giant denial, and then it was like, well, Google just needs to fix it. It's not our problem kind of thing. And it got obviously a nasty response from a lot of readers. So do you guys have any thoughts on just Google Wallet and Verizon and this sort of – I mean, it's been out for – I think I looked it up, and Google Wallet came out – like almost a year ago. I think it was like last November, October. And here we are a year later, and it's on a couple of unlocked phones, like all the Nexus devices, obviously. It's on like 2 or 3 Sprint phones, I think. I thought it was on a couple of T-Mobile phones, but I'm not sure if it still is. So the adoption's not there, and everyone's I personally feel like they're getting just blocked out because of ISIS. And I know like that's the obvious place to go, but what else is the reason that Verizon's not willing to let this just happen? Or AT&T, or who else? I don't know.
There must be some type of money trail that we just aren't seeing, or that we don't have any knowledge of. I mean, I don't see why they would just want to stop the service like that, I mean, because, yeah, as we can see, I mean, it should work just fine because the hardware is in place and all that, but for some reason, someone just doesn't want to flip the switch. So.
Yeah, I don't know if Verizon's just trying to get money out of it from Google, because it's a payment service. If they can license, I don't know, not necessarily license it, but cut some sort of deal where they get some sort of portion of, I don't know, whatever the take home is for Google. It's just it's frustrating. It's annoying as an end user that we just sort of get denied time and time again like this. I mean, it kind of goes back to last week when we talked about the Note 2, how Verizon's like removed and hid features and stuff like that. This stuff just seems to happen all the time, and I guess it sucks too because as the small guy, like we can't just complain to somebody and get them to change it. Like it takes thousands and hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of people like in a group to sort of get something changed, and who knows if it ever will. I mean, I could rant about this forever. So
sounds like it.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, for some reason, because I guess I'm just so used to not having Google Wallet working that it's not even in my mind. I'm just like, yeah, it's on these phones, but I can't use it on any of them. And even if I go somewhere with Google Wallet, the little kiosk thing is broken. So I'm just like, whatever. I'm over it. I'm upset.
Yeah, well, it is the story. The reply that the guy got said that it was being not blocked, but it doesn't work because it requires a secure element.
Right.
That's the quote or whatever, right. Which I guess apparently PayPal and Square don't have. So I'm wondering it's obviously not a payment thing. I don't think PayPal or Square would put their apps on phones if they had to have some sort of deal with Verizon. Their fees would obviously be higher. But I'm wondering if it's maybe that Verizon gets access to the data if it's on Square or PayPal.
That's what I'm thinking too.
And that maybe with Google Wallet they're keeping that secure and they don't like that.
Well, so with ISIS, Verizon is using NFC SIM cards. And what I was under the impression of is that gives them a whole ton of data and information and all of that stuff, right? And Google Wallet doesn't use that. It uses the NFC that's on the device. It's built in. And so I would assume maybe that Google could just say, okay, we'll switch it over to all you have to use is an NFC SIM card. And I don't know if Verizon's ready to roll those out. They're only in 2 test markets with ISIS right now. So I don't know if it's a change like that could take over and make it work. But I assume when they're talking about the secure element, they're just talking about NFC because none of those other apps they list use NFC. Yeah. I don't know. It sucks.
Yeah.
I'm sick of.
I mean, it's just loopholes sidestepping by Verizon. They don't want to say why they don't want to have it, and they're like, oh well, now we don't block it, but we didn't say that you can use it. It's just them tiptoeing around whatever reason they have for not telling us why they can't use it.
They are masters of the sidestep.
Yeah, they are.
It is. I mean, yes, they said we're not blocking it. And they're right. You can install it now, but it doesn't work. So they're still shutting it down. It's just really unfortunate. And watch, when ISIS goes live everywhere, then they'll flip the switch and they'll go, yeah, Google's fine. Actually, I guess Google would have to do the anyway. I'll just do that here. This is a dead end. I'll just keep complaining all night. Let's talk about being rooted or non-rooted. So, a few weeks ago, I think, or maybe in a month or so ago, we asked everyone, again, we do this like once a year. We sort of ask, are you rooted? Are you not rooted? Please tell us why, which way, you know. And so then we want to ask, does it matter anymore? So I just want to go around to each of you and just say if your phone or your main phone, I know some of you have a couple, is it rooted? And if it is, why? If it's not rooted, why? When was the last time you rooted one? Do you just always do it? Reasons, yada, yada, yada. So, Eric, I'll start with you. What's your sort of status as far as root goes?
Well, I've got the Galaxy Nexus, so it's pretty much the easiest thing in the world to unlock it and root it as long as you know what you're doing. So mine's been unlocked since the day that I got it, and it's fitting that we just talked about Google Wallet because Google Wallet's been working perfectly fine on my Verizon Galaxy Nexus, you know, since I've had it rooted. The problem is you can't find anywhere else that actually uses it besides like McDonald's or Best Buy or something like that.
Right.
So I see a considerable jump in battery life whenever I root my phone and install set CPU and some profiles, you know, and that's the main reason why. I mean, I throw ROMs on there, but I'm not like a nightly build updater, but I definitely see some performance benefits when you have it rooted and you know what you're doing.
Yeah, Tim and I have sort of had this ongoing conversation over the year, I think, about whether or not it's important to have ROMs and all that stuff anymore. So, Tim, what are your phones like right now? I know you have the DNA, but what else do you have?
My personal phone, Galaxy Nexus, still is rooted, of course, just because it's Galaxy Nexus. But say, like, even if I owned like the Razer HD, the DNA, the Galaxy Note 2, the S3, or any of that, I probably wouldn't feel like rooting any of them just because I don't really find it necessary anymore. Back when I used to root phones, I would do it because I didn't either like the way Android looked as a whole, or my phone wasn't fast enough, or there was too much other things going on. But now, phones are fast, Android looks fantastic, and all of the reasons I was rooting have gone away. So, as an Android user, I'm proud to say I don't have to root my phone for it to be cool anymore.
It's kind of nice to say that, I'm not going to lie. To say that Android's come far enough that you don't feel like the very second you get it. I mean, when phones used to come out, like we used to have a guide every single time, like this is step by step how you.
Oh boy. So,
step by step how you blow up.
But then I guess I'll kind of go on what else I was saying, though. It depends on also the skin that you have on some of these phones. Like TouchWiz doesn't really bother me anymore. Moto Blur doesn't even bother me anymore because it's really not even a skin, I guess you could call it. But then the DNA with Sense, I would actually root this one. I take that back. I would root it, unlock it, and throw on an AOSP ROM because I can't stand looking at Sense anymore. So that's all I have to say about that.
Sorry, I got kicked for the third time now. Ron, did you have anything to weigh in on rooting or not?
I think, you know, I used to when I had my Droid 2 in particular, that was the last one that I rooted a lot, or not rooted a lot, but I was flashing ROMs on it constantly.
Yeah.
That, I mean, it was a different app on stock Android was terrible, but the Motorola one was actually good. So you'd get, you know, the pieces of Moto Blur that you wanted, and everything else was stock, and it was great. I love that ROM. And then eventually I went to, there are a bunch of other ones. I remember testing out MIUI when that was brand new on the Droid 2. So I mean, it was fun. It was cool because people were doing radically different. Liberty was the one I was thinking of, where you do all the different color themes.
I rocked Liberty for a long time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone loves
Shout out to
Liberty.
Cover because I know he's here.
Yeah, and that stuff was a lot of fun. Just messing with it and just seeing the different tastes and the different designs of these developers and little tweaks that they put on there to change things up, and it was a lot of fun. But at this point, I like stock Android. But that said, it's not that difficult to get pretty close to stock Android with a lot of the launchers that are out there and everything else like that, to where you're not seeing the cruft and crap of these skins.
No, all right, one second. Let me
have to get to the notification shade. It's basically right there.
Exactly. I was about to say, here, let me just give you a quick example of why exactly, like, even a launcher isn't going to take it all the way. Because so up in my look how much crap is up in that notification bar.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
That shouldn't be there. And my OCD is just killing me right now.
Yeah, and that kind of stuff does bother me, and that's, obviously I still wish that all things came with stock, but it's not as bad, it's not as abrasive as it used to be. You can kind of get rid of a lot of that stuff.
It's not as bad.
So, because even back, if you're running stock, throwing on Launcher Pro or whatever, whatever other launcher you want to put on there, it gets rid of most of it. It gets rid of the stuff that's really abrasive, and when you have to do a notification, you can sigh and then move on. So
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
for me,
right now, go for it, Eric.
Well, I hope to have the DNA at some point here in the next couple months, and I'm probably gonna put up with Sense for as long as I can. But
about 2 hours.
Just something. Well, hopefully longer than that. I want to give it longer than that at least. There's just something about stock Android that it's just been clean, it's been smooth when you can get a good ROM going. And there's also something for when you get a new phone. I don't know if it's just me, but at least knowing how to exploit it or how to exploit the run that you can get the root and then, unlock it after that. I always want to know at least how to do that on every phone that I have. And that doesn't mean that I do, but maybe that's just me.
Yeah. And that was another, you mentioned once you get a good ROM on there, that was another thing that began to discourage me, was especially with the Droid 2, and actually no, even with the Incredible was one I was messing with after that, the original. Just sometimes you get a really good ROM, and other times they're just testing and messing around. Like there are Jelly Bean ROMs for the Incredible, but none of them run well because it's not designed to run on there. So even when you do have ROMs that are designed to go on there, like they're throwing Sense 4 on top of Android 2.3, and it just doesn't run right and doesn't run good.
Well, that's sort of like the fun part about Android, though. You do it because you can do it. Like, who's really going to be running Android on the HP touchpad? Not me, but you can do it.
Yeah, a lot of people are.
Well, hey,
I was doing that back with
$99 tablets. Can't beat that.
Yeah, at the time.
But yeah,
but I was even doing that. I started doing the custom ROMs and everything back with Windows Mobile. That was when I first got into it. Just putting on different ROMs on there, and it was a lot easier to root that stuff and get in there and mess with that, just because it was Windows, so it was clunky and you knew it. But even with those, you had tons of issues where you're throwing, like I had the Touch Pro 2, so I'm throwing like newer versions of, I think it was Touch Flow back then, and those never worked right either. There's tons of issues. So, but it is fun. It's fun to mess around with that and push the limits of the hardware. And
true.
So,
well, that's kind of like me and Eric having Jelly Bean on our OG droids, like it's it might not be practical, but it sure is cool. And and salute to anyone who's man enough to run that as a daily driver.
Oh God,
it's cool to walk up to my roommates who have a Galaxy S3 and a HTC One X and say, "Yo, my OG droid has Jelly Bean before both of your phones."
I can't do anything with it, but
I do like that. Yeah. Thunderbolt owners.
Poor Thunderbolt owners. You just have to bring them up. Every time you bring them up, I cry a little bit. I feel really bad for it. But I do think it's becoming less and less important, I think, for custom ROMs. And I think root, though, just having root, and I think a lot of people do it just to tether, too. And, like, Tim, you and I are cave trolls, so we don't need to tether ever. But a lot of people do it just for that, right? I mean, they root instantly so they can tether for free.
That's a good point. That was a big part of it that I don't even think I really touched on too much in my own personal life. I guess being cave trolls, we are connected to Wi-Fi all day.
Yes.
But yeah.
But so yeah, the two reasons I see all the time, people want to tether and then they want to get rid of bloatware, which is funny because you can disable bloatware, in ICS and above. Well, Verizon started to find ways around that. Actually, there's a lot of apps you go in now and they blocked out the disable button, which drives me nuts. But I think those are the two reasons I see the most are tethering and removing bloatware, which is sort of funny. People just hate bloatware. It's amazing. We always do a bloatware count in our reviews, but people always hate bloatware. But I have a Nexus 4, and of course the first time I opened it, I unlocked it, the bootloader anyway. But I haven't even rooted it yet because the stock 4.2 is so smooth and good, and it looks nice, and it runs fine. I don't need to change anything about it. So, even with the Galaxy Nexus on Verizon, I remember we couldn't wait till we got the first ROM and all that stuff. And and maybe we just haven't talked about it enough with the Nexus 4 because it's not on Verizon. But it doesn't seem like it even has that feel. Like when the Galaxy Nexus came out, it was like ROM, 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 ROM. And the Nexus 4, I don't even know that I get that feeling. Or the Nexus 7, or
maybe. But even with the Galaxy Nexus, that seemed to wane a little bit as time went on. I think just because it was good enough. And I think a lot of times, there are just issues with, even the firmware that, whoever the manufacturer pushes out, where there are just issues that are there and they don't get resolved until you get the next update, which is, a year or so later. And so, putting stock software on there, that's just the way to get it to run better in a lot of cases. And Eric, like you talked about putting the adjusting the CPU stuff and all that. I mean, that does make a difference, and it's cool being able to control that. And, if you're getting to the point where you're rooting and ROMing your phone, you're probably going to worry about what the CPU speed is at most of the time. So.
Well, when I was putting on custom ROMs, I would be like, man, I'm doing it because I can get system settings in the pull down and all this stuff. And now finally, here we are years later, and Google's catching up with these developers, and they're like, well, that's a good feature. We're going to implement that into official Android. And so all these things that I used to want are just now baked right into Android. And and custom ROMs, maybe it's the level of that the developers are out there right now, because it just doesn't seem like the ROMs are as good, maybe, if you could say.
No.
It's definitely a whole bunch of different people. It's not the same. I don't see J. Rummy and CVPCS and all these guys, and they're doing other things now. They're done from custom ROMs, and I think it's like a new school of ROM developers. And maybe I just don't like it as much as I like the old school stuff. I don't know.
Well, I think it's a testament for how far Android's come, because usually those features that the settings and the pull down, we would implement those because Android didn't have something like that. And I think we're getting to the point where Android has most of the stuff that we want. So, we're going to have to sit and wait and think about things that we actually want in our, that Android doesn't have already.
Somebody just shouted out Black Droid in the chat. Do you guys remember Black Droid?
Oh, yeah, dude.
Wow, that's some controversy right there. I mean, remember how much hate that guy used to go through? Because I think he's the CM team originated the word Kang just because of Black Droid, I think. Do you remember that? Because he was the one that was stealing all their code and saying, oh yeah, I built it from source.
Yep.
Wow.
Drama.
We won't touch on that.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, and there's another reason why people have been doing less ROMs, because you have a great ROM and then it stops getting developed because somebody gets in a fight. So.
Well, it seems to happen all the time too. There's so much
constantly,
drama that evolves around these developers, and it's I don't know what they're fighting for. I understand that people shouldn't, Kang code or anything like that, but at the same time, you're not getting paid for this work. You put so much of your time and energy into it, and then someone just steals it. I mean, I can understand how that hurts, but come on, man.
Ron, I know you can speak to this because you were a Droid 2 owner who also ROMmed, but you would sit there as somebody who would download them, and you would see these developer fights happen. And
especially with the Droid 2, all over the place.
Oh, dude, it was so bad. You would sit there and you would have these horrible problems with your ROM, but it would never get updated because they were too busy fighting with other people over drama and making blog posts and stuff.
Oh, it was terrible. And fighting on Twitter and going, and then I'm trying to go through the conversation. And do I really care after 2 hours? Not really, but I read it all.
Bad.
Oh,
my phone doesn't turn on. Can you please fix this?
Yeah, I mean, some of it was really cool, and that was one of the ways where I was able to, see Twitter really shine. Was I was able to, communicate with these developers directly, and oftentimes, they're up late in the night like I was. I was in college at the time, so I'm just working on papers, and in the meantime, I'm, throwing a custom ROM on my phone to distract myself from actually doing the work I was supposed to be doing. and you know, you just shoot out a tweet or whatever and get some help with stuff. And I mean, that part of it was neat, and just connecting with the community abroad in a way that you really couldn't before. There was no really easy way to do that. So I mean, that stuff was cool. And it was cool talking to some of those guys and seeing the work that they're doing. But you know, Tim, like you were saying, when somebody steals your code like that, you're not. I mean, some of them did get, you know, you get donations and that kind of thing, but
Right.
it was still pretty rare. You're putting in hours and hours of work. I mean, somebody jacks your code, there's no way for you to like do anything about it.
There's no internet justice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Anonymous didn't exist yet.
Yeah, Anonymous did not exist yet. And even if you got to have pretty darn good proof for Anonymous to do anything about it. But but you know, so when I was on the outside looking in, you know, as a young rooter and a young Android user, I would look to these developers as if they were gods and celebrities. And
I know, dude. I'm the same way. Yeah,
so the CM team, they're just like untouchable gods of code and all this stuff, and now it's just it just seems very you know, we're all just Android lovers at heart, and
like the fact that I'm gonna get to talk to Birdman in the Tato show after this, I'm pretty excited because he was like single-handedly, you know, the root for a couple of my phones.
Birdman made it happen for the Droid X, man.
I know, yeah.
Oh yeah,
he's a good dude. Birdman's a good dude for sure.
Yep, he'll be on.
But maybe the problem is that there's just so many phones now. You know, originally in those like glory days that we talk about, there's only a couple phones, and you had, you know, like dozens of developers on a couple of phones. Now there's just too many.
It's too many,
they all buy phones. Once like the Droid X and Droid 2, and then phones started coming out after that, it became hard for even us to cover all that stuff because we didn't have them all. For a while there, I was like buying every phone just so we could talk about rooting it and all this stuff, and it just became way too much. Yeah. And now, there's more phones than ever.
Yeah. Well, even on XDA, there's like a program where you can build your own ROMs, you know, and it'll like compile it for you, and all you like checklist things that you want it to have, and it just builds it for you. You know, it kind of takes the fun out of it.
Yeah. Huh. But I think that's, you know, there was, Kellen, I think you're right. There was a period where, I mean, Android kind of exploded, mostly because of the original Droids. I think we had a lot of people on Verizon, so if there was a big Verizon device, you had developers around that. But once it started, you know, really getting big on some of the other carriers too, as people were getting off of their dumb phones and switching over, it became very, very complicated to keep up with that stuff.
Yeah.
So, and then you get the variants on top of that of, oh yeah, I've got the Galaxy S3. Well, which one do you have? Do you have the AT&T one? Oh, is it the AT&T in US, or is it the Rogers one? Oh God, I don't care anymore.
Yeah, it's impossible, and the devs are just all spread out, and so they're doing their own things. It's tough to keep up. So, all right, let's talk about Eric Schmidt, our favorite Google voice. I wish he would talk more. It's kind of sad that now he's just what is he? He's not an evangelist, but he's like
he's the chairman of the board.
Chairman of the board.
Cheerleader. Yeah. That's the word.
But he's not in front of people as much as he was when he was just like CEO.
I still think that he's the face of Google. When you think of, because I don't think Larry Page, I don't really think Brin all too much. Maybe when you think Android, you think Andy Rubin and all that. But when I think Google, I think Eric Schmidt and no one else.
Yeah.
Well, it's because he was just so vocal for so long. And so this week he sat. Was it Bloomberg that he sat down with, or no? Maybe that was Larry Page. I don't know, maybe it was. And he basically said like, we're kicking Apple's ass. I mean, he didn't say that word for word, but he basically said we're winning the fight with Apple. Look at the numbers, and he's right. I mean,
numbers don't lie,
and they don't. The thing I think everyone always gets confused is that Apple does software and hardware. So their numbers are huge, and they make so much money because they control everything. And you know, Google's just producing the software, and all the OEMs are the ones making the money, and there's, you know, obviously more Android devices, so the sales look smaller, but the numbers combined are just incredibly huge. So I think people need to realize that Android really is crushing Apple in terms of share. You know, there's all sorts of different statistics about the browser percentages and all that stuff. But in terms of numbers and OS share, it's not even close. I mean, I think the last numbers we saw, Android was at like 70% or something. It was something huge. So, Ron, you had some thoughts about Eric Schmidt, didn't you?
Yeah, well, number one, I think he's awesome. I love him. He's great. He always says random crap. He's always Schmidt talking. But I think this is, we saw a lot of people kind of talking about some of the stuff he was saying. John Gruber over at During Fireball had a short post about what Schmidt had said, and just, you know, coming from the Apple perspective. And I think it is interesting that talking about like what does it mean for Android to win overall, because there's a lot of, like you mentioned, browser share. If you look at Nexus devices, they make up, I think, 0.9 in terms of tablet usage on the web.
Yeah.
That makes up
Yeah,
0.9%. It's tiny.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just 0.9 of tablet traffic, not even whole traffic.
Right.
And iOS devices have always dominated in terms of web traffic, which is weird, and I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me, because Android devices have always dominated, well, for a while now, dominated in terms of sheer numbers and especially activations. So what does it mean that Android is winning? One of the points that Gruber brought up was, at some point these companies need to be making money, and right now it's only Samsung for the most part, and everybody else is just kind of making it, but quarterly losses and all sorts of other stuff. And what is that going to mean in the next 3 to 5 years? As companies we're seeing more and more companies slow down production, and okay, we're only going to do a few devices, and is winning still going to look the same? Is that going to mean that we're going to have as many OEMs in the field later on? We have no idea. We have no idea it's going to come, but what does it mean to win? Is it just sheer numbers, or is winning going to mean that these companies need to start making money as well, so that they can actually stay in business?
Well, I think Google, I don't know if Google is so much concerned about the OEMs rather than their own bottom line, basically. And I know that Eric Schmidt did touch on, their idea is to have so many Android, activations going on daily that there's more. Hello again, Kellen. I didn't even know you left. I thought your face was just like stuck there. So either way, he said, hey man, if there's more Android phones, that means that there's more ways for us to push advertisements and online services. So right. I think for Google, it's going to be good for them. And then the OEMs might just have to pretty much fight over the bone, you know what I mean? It might be dog eat dog out there between HTC. I don't know. I mean, HTC, they really need to step their game up if people are going to start buying their phones. But we know that Samsung's doing well. They're definitely making money. But as far as we don't know if Motorola's doing anything really, I guess, in terms of making money off Android.
Well, no. Android on as many devices as possible, hopefully monetize that, but I don't know that we've even seen. They're sort of like Twitter in a way. Twitter grew so big, and you kept going, well, they got to figure out how to monetize this, and I don't know they've really figured that out yet. Google hasn't been able to figure that out yet with Android yet. And I hope that they have some plan. I guess we would maybe assume, since Google's a bunch of smart people, that they would, but so far we haven't seen it. So it is kind of it's an interesting point that Gruber brings up. Is it just because you're the OS, you're dominating OS, or does everyone have to be making money like Apple is in order to overtake them? And so far, it's shared, but there's no money unless you're Samsung.
Yeah, but that does raise a question of, obviously Google's actually, I think, so far made more money from iOS than they have from Android in terms of where they're actually getting their money from advertisements and that kind of thing, which I think comes back to this whole, how many, the web share usage, which I would love for somebody to actually figure out why iOS is dominating. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, there's something funky going on with that number.
It's very, very weird.
Because it's not even close. Even it's like they're consistently blowing people out of the water.
Just dominating. Yeah, it's been odd. And even the quarterly numbers though, when you do the U.S. smartphone share, when the 4S came out, that was number one on every single carrier, but still Android numbers were on top. So there's weird things. Obviously, they're estimates and that kind of thing, but there's weird things going on with those numbers.
So why is it that Android people aren't going on the web then, or browser then?
See, that's the thing. I don't think that's the case.
I mean, how could it be, right? I mean, we use smartphones and people go on their browser. I don't think this is the case, but is Apple I don't want to bring up some controversy or conspiracy, but do some of their apps call as if they're a browser? I don't understand where that comes from. How could it be? And you're right, it's way different. Apple just dominates in that area. I don't get it at all.
No, I haven't seen anybody really analyze that and say, well, give me a clear explanation of why that would be, because even if it's a relatively new trend for apps to have their own in-app browser on Android.
Yeah.
Most of the time it would push you off into another app. So I don't know if that maybe has something to do with it, or what. Because that could be it, but still it doesn't make any sense because eventually you're going to be pushing into the browser at some point. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't, and how they're measuring web traffic between the two platforms isn't clear either. Is if you're going on Twitter, is that considered the web, or is it just when you're going on an actual website? What's the difference between that?
since Dave isn't in the chat, but he did hit me up on G Talk, and he was curious, about how the numbers are counted, say, for the different apps that are on Android browsers. So, like, do they count Opera or Boat browser, Dolphin, all these other ones, or are they only counting, say, Chrome and the built-in native browser?
That's true. They might be only counting the native browser.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's only a certain way to tick, each little counter. It's only ticking that native
That's
one,
a good point.
But who knows? Dave, thank you for your wonderful point.
Genius.
That's why
it could be, but the majority of people that have Android phones probably don't have a custom browser installed either.
Well,
so I don't think it would. When you think about the sheer number of Android phones out there, most people aren't going to be messing with that a lot. I don't think.
That's a good question. We could actually run that poll, because that's a poll. I think we have run that poll before. I don't have numbers, but I don't think that like native browser is ahead by any means at all. And I know that our readers, of course, aren't the average Android users.
Yeah, we've got a weird subset.
Yeah.
But then again, you never know.
So I'm just thinking of like how a lot of these companies that do these analytics things, a lot of them are ad companies,
Right.
and a lot of ways like how ads work. When you set up an ad to call, you set it up for like Safari or iOS, and with Android, it's usually just Android. It's not Chrome or a specific browser. Like when you want something to show to an Android user, you just look for Android. So
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I think there's something in iOS that.
But you would think if it's just looking for Android, then that would make their numbers be even huger.
You would think, yeah. So that's what doesn't make sense is why the numbers are so odd.
I don't know. People much smarter than us need to think about this and
Yeah,
report back
Or
to
we need
us.
to do a little bit of journalism and figure out what's going on.
Yeah,
You should
Eric,
talk to an actual
speak for
analyst.
yourself, man.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about our reader Q&A from this week. So we ran our Q&A session on Monday, and we had a couple of people ask, like, will you take a couple of these and answer them on air? So we grabbed two. The first one's a big one. Second one's just a short one. And the first one, a reader asked, which Android OEM are you most excited about for 2013? The new Motorola, trying to revive HTC, what number one Samsung will do, the mostly hated till now LG, or Asus, or Sony. So I'll just start with Tim. Who are you most excited for going into 2013?
Well, like, if I could joke about it, I would say Huawei, or however you pronounce that.
Huawei.
Huawei. But if I had to be completely serious, I would have to say the new Motorola, just because once their design warehouse is completely abandoned, and we get some, like, fresh Google blood in there.
Tweet to fire every single person that used
Yeah, it's going to be awesome, man. I just have a feeling that the new Motorola is going to be where it's at.
Ron, Eric?
HTC still holds a special place in my heart. I love HTC. Their batteries pretty much consistently suck across the board.
Yes, they do.
Although, fun fact, if anybody out there has a Touch Pro 2, that battery does fit in the Incredible if you have an Incredible as well. Just be a little wary of some overheating issues. Not that I have any experience with that. I've always loved HTC, specifically with their design of the actual physical phones. I've always loved the way that they design those things, and I think they have a lot of good taste there. Software, less so. There was a time when I liked it, and now it's become a little bit less to my liking. But I'm also actually really excited about Motorola. I think there's a lot of potential there. A lot of potential with, we're kind of getting to this point now where we should be seeing some more influence from Google. I would love to see a phone that's inspired by the Nexus Q's design. And honestly, Motorola's design, I mean, they've pretty consistently, with the exception of the Droid 2, made really good phones and really well-designed phones. Even the most recent ones, and even with their skin, it's not horrible. And they I think they do a good job with their. I mean, they've on the Droid 2. I ran a ROM that kept some of their software because they do good things. They do a good job. So I'm excited to see what, if anything, Google will do with them, because we haven't seen Google really push. We're starting to see Google become more and more of a design company with Google Now and the new stuff they're doing with Gmail and pushing that all over the place, and I really like it. I think it looks really great. So I'd love to see them do more of that in terms of hardware design. We haven't seen a lot of really, really good, really impressive hardware in a while.
Yeah, Eric, Do you sort of echo that?
I mean, yeah, I think we all can agree that Motorola is going to be different. They're going to be better. I have this sneaking suspicion that Samsung is just going to get too big for their britches and just flop on next year. I think they're just going to think that they're on top of the world and that they can feed us whatever they want. And I feel like the next Samsung phone is not going to be as well accepted as the S3. But that's just me.
You don't think they've been feeding us more than we want with S Pen and S Voice and?
Well, see, that's the thing. I was never really a fan. I'm still not really a fan of the S3. Like it's okay. I am much more in the One X camp. I think HTC, the One X, and the DNA have been two fantastic phones, and I think next year they are going to have something to say about their position in the Android ecosystem. I think they're going to do really well next year.
Did you say the DNA is a fantastic phone?
Yeah, dude. I've been hearing nothing. I haven't gotten to put my hands on it. But
I had something to say about that. Yeah.
Who are you talking to?
I mean, are you gonna say that it's a bad phone? Like, would you say that it's bad?
If you really tempt me, it just depends. There's
Send him a Snapchat.
yeah, there's parts of it that I really like, but I guess there's parts of it that just make me, man, just really. Kellen knows I love the One X, and so I was really hoping it was kind of be more like that, but they somehow messed it up. Like it's
It
not.
feels more
the
like the
same.
original Incredible than anything else.
Yeah, kind of, because it has more of like a squared
Mm-hmm.
on the side. It's not rounded, and it doesn't have that curved top as much as it did on the One X. I feel.
Doesn't have a nipple.
Yeah, definitely no nipple, and I'm kind of missing that. I don't know, the hardware buttons. At least not on screen like they should be. Power buttons awful. It's way too flush. Volume rocker's way too flush. Say when I'm going for it, I can't even feel like where the volume down is when I'm trying to like turn it down immediately.
They've got a problem with that even on the 8X here. It's
Right.
you can't feel the buttons at all.
And then
And even that,
to top
even the
it off, it got
8X.
sense.
Even the 8X, in my opinion, looks really nice. Like once
Okay,
again, I haven't gotten my hands on it.
Yeah, it looks nice, and so did the DNA when I first looked at it. But once I got my hands on it, it's a different story. They translate differently. Your eyes are like, that looks fantastic, and I bet it feels amazing. Yeah, it feels all right. But in your hands, the usability, having the power button up here, Sense 4.0,
Well, yeah.
there's just a lot of things that are just kind of speaking against it. But I know I love the One series. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying the DNA really isn't all that HTC could have done.
Yeah. I think the follow-up that they do for the One series, I think, is going to be pretty good.
Well, if they do like a HTC One X2 or a 2X or something like that, then that'll be awesome. And hopefully it's more kind of like the One X, But I love the One series, so I prefer the One series also over the Galaxy series.
Yeah.
So I'm also very excited for HTC. But in the meantime, new Motorola. That's just more exciting, I guess.
Yeah, but I'm to the point where I'm tired of getting my hopes up, waiting for the perfect Motorola phone because it's been a while.
Yeah, I mean,
But now we have
they're
something
making
to
some
really wait
strides.
for. Yeah, well, now we know that something's happening.
I know.
Yeah. So even Larry kind of hinted, like maybe no one else really caught on it, but he said, "Well, hey, we haven't even owned the company that long." So that means that they are thinking about it. They just didn't have the means to do it.
They bought a manufacturer for a reason.
Exactly.
They're
And
not
it wasn't just patents. So
no, it absolutely was. I mean, that was definitely part of it, but it wasn't the main.
So,
but
we'll
if
see.
if we can get back to something real quick,
Go for
Eric,
it.
you were talking about you think Samsung's gonna flop on themselves with this. What do you think it would take to do that? Because I was looking at the crap they're introducing with the S3. They have this just tons of random crap that I don't think is helpful. What do you think it would take for
more of
that to
that?
happen?
Like I was sitting there I remember during the S3 conference, and I'm like, what is all this like inspired by nature? And like, I don't want
Nature
water
UX.
sounds on my phone and all
it's
this kind of
corny.
stuff,
It's corny.
It's just I think if they don't realize that they can't just do whatever and sell 1 million phones. I don't think if they don't realize that fact, I think their next phone is gonna not. I can't think of anything like off the top of my head, but I don't know. I just have this bad feeling about it.
Yeah, well, fine.
Yeah, I mean, and that's all.
There's
that's
no
all my
talking to you,
opinion.
Eric. There's no
That's all
talking to
me.
you.
No, but I think it is an interesting thing seeing Samsung's success even this last year. There was somebody I forget who it was. Somebody had an article showing the different amounts of money that each company spent on advertising, and Samsung blew everybody out of the water, even Apple.
And I think that was also part of the thing, because I think we can all sit here and say that the 1X and the S3 are comparable phones. I think they're all both on the same level. At least I would go that far.
Yeah, well, the display 1X wins hands down.
Yeah, maybe in terms of hardware they're comparable. When it comes to the software, though, and I think the improvements that Samsung has done overall to TouchWiz, and oh man, if you were going to compare TouchWiz to like the new Sense, or what am I saying, the new Sense, it looks the same as it did years ago.
Nope, totally new.
But like, you got to give it to Samsung a little bit. You got to give them credit.
Well, where I was going with that point was the fact that Samsung blew the S3 up, like, in every way possible. Like
you couldn't go see a movie without hearing about it and seeing that guy tied up.
The amphitheater that they had for the S3 event, I remember, was just enormous. Like, the screen was like 100 feet wide or something like that. I think when you spend that much money on a phone, it's going to sell like hotcakes.
That's just the press event too. That's not even like in front of consumers.
Yeah,
so they have done a brilliant job at marketing. Samsung has. I don't want to just say that everything, all their success is just because of like this brilliant marketing campaign, but I mean, you can't turn around.
Though.
It's huge, though. You can't turn around without seeing a Samsung commercial, and they're pretty good commercials.
Well, this last one that they did, especially the one with a parent show up in line for the Apple Store.
Didn't that win an award?
Oh yeah, that one was good.
Sure, it's really, really good. It's really compelling, to say like, oh, this is, you want to get an iPhone, that's fine. That's what your parents do. And then the last is this line for apps is great. So it's a really, really compelling, and just kind of showing this shift of, oh yeah, you've heard about the iPhone. That's old stuff. Now the new thing is here. When they were first saying that, I didn't really get it. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. But that commercial in particular, having the parent show up and the new thing is here. That's
that
great. That
good.
sells it.
Yeah.
Because you were offended by it, Ron. You're like, oh, I get it.
I just wasn't smart enough before, but now I've been educated by Samsung. I'm better about it.
Well, so
Samsung.
That reminds me, though, okay, so like we were just talking about Motorola not going after Apple, and instead they go after Samsung. But at the same time, any company or any phone manufacturer that goes after Apple, maybe they won't even think that it's or it's the other company doing it, because it was BlackBerry that did something in Australia about wake up Apple customers, and everyone pointed the finger automatically at Samsung, saying it must be Samsung.
Samsung had the other campaign going at the same time, though.
Exactly.
And why would you suspect BlackBerry, who still hasn't launched their smartphone that they promised for like
a year? But if you're bashing Apple, then you're just giving more credit, I think, to Samsung maybe at that point. So
I think there was a point where bashing Apple, and let's qualify this. There's a difference between bashing Apple and saying what your phone has and Apple doesn't.
Well, tell Apple that.
Yeah, I think there was a point where that was acceptable, but I think we've passed that point. I think we've heard all that you can say about how bad Apple is. I'm pretty sure. Hopefully, we're all going to move on from that. We're not going to. Oh, Apple's the worst, and you're just the man if you buy their phone and all that kind of stuff.
God, I hope so.
It would be nice to get away from the Apple hate. I mean, we like poking fun.
We like poking fun, but it's not like we don't use their computers and whatever. Like, it's silly to think that we would be where we are if it wasn't for Apple and what they did with smartphones. So I enjoy Apple.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with Apple. We just like poking fun at all their
just
silly
fun.
things.
Yeah, we're just trolls.
We kind of are just trolls. Yeah. I didn't really mention it, but I think I'm with you guys, Motorola. Really excited to see what Google does with them. It's going to be the new Motorola. No more Sanjay, so that'll be interesting to see.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that guy.
R.I.P.
Yeah, R.I.P. Wow. Let's talk about, so our other question from the Q&As that we pulled really quickly was, why does the Droid Life app suck? So I'll just address this really quick. The Droid Life app sucks because, like, 2.5 years ago, we found some developer that was making apps for free, and they made all these sports apps, and they just made it for us for free. And they made it, and it sucks. And this is why we don't push anyone to use it. We'd rather use Google Currents or the mobile version of the site or something like that. Because yes, we definitely aren't fans of the Droid Life app ourselves. We actually looked into getting a new Droid Life app created, and we talked to the guys that developed the app for The Verge, because the Verge app is amazing. And they quoted us with a price that I don't even know if we could quote on air. It was insane.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we can quote it. What are you talking about?
Astronomical.
All right, so Tim, tell everyone how much, and this is not a knock against his company, because the app they made for The Verge is awesome. And Eric Richardson, a guy that's big in the Android community, worked a lot on it and did some amazing work. Like, it's a really nice app.
Exactly.
But
He's awesome, and he deserves everything he got for doing that great work. But for a Droid Life app, there's no way we're dropping this kind of cash.
So how much was it?
Well, when I was first quoted, and I told him, well, we just wanted a basic kind of news reader, nothing too. We wanted our comments in there, no big deal. And then there was like, yeah, well, we could shoot for somewhere between $30,000 and $50,000. And I was like, you're doing like $40,000 for a Droid Life app? And I just, I've just like spit my coffee out all over my screen. I'm like, good luck.
What was it you said to me? You were like, Kellen, why don't you just pay me to go to school? It'll be cheaper.
It'll be cheaper to send me to developer school. I'll make a Droid Life app, and then we'll just call it even.
Yeah. So everyone in the chat, eventually we'll probably think about doing an app, but we have to find the right developer that doesn't want $40,000, because I mean we're a decent sized site now, but we don't have $40,000 to throw at an app that we might never see back. So yeah, the Droid Life app sucks. Use Google Currents, use the mobile version, stuff like that. There's other options out there. So we apologize that it sucks, but we also will fully admit that.
And for anyone who doesn't know where the mobile version is, all you have to do is you go to our homepage, and all the way at the bottom, scroll down, and it says View Mobile Version, and then you're good to go.
Definitely good to go. And Google Currents got a new update today, version 2.0. It's really nice.
Oh,
and I was in there tweaking it, so it had some issues earlier, but you can use it now. It's really nice, actually. I think we have like 250,000 subscribers on Google Currents, which is kind of a crazy number.
That is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy. Let's talk about some apps real quick, and then we'll sort of wrap up because Tim has an announcement. But let's talk about some apps. So, Tim, actually, you go first. Talk about some apps.
Oh, well, my first app I want to shout out for game actually is Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Finally came out. Hey, sorry, Thor. So, yeah, Vice City, finally after a week almost of a delay, Rockstar got their stuff together, and we have Vice City for Android. $5. It brings back plenty of good memories from when I was younger and just running drugs in Miami. And this.
Oh yeah, man.
This game is awesome, dude. I'm back.
Great childhood experience for everyone, running drugs and hookers in Miami.
Exactly. So, and yeah, Rockstar did a fantastic job with the controls again, just like they did on GTA 3. It's awesome.
Nice.
So get on it.
Did you have another app?
Yes, I have Google Currents. That we just said.
Just talking about that.
Yep, updated to version 2.0. New widget that I actually really like. They updated the whole UI. So they have a nice sidebar that, where you push over your stories to the right and you got your sidebar, and then you push it back over to the left, and then you can flip through your feed or go through topics, and it's sweet, man. I might have to start using it again.
It is really nice.
And yeah, and it doesn't, a lot of people were worried because it was like draining batteries and stuff earlier, but I haven't really noticed any difference on my DNA since I downloaded it. So, and that should be saying something.
Yeah, and there is a setting in there that most people should just turn off. It's a sync setting, and you don't really need Google Currents to sync because when you open it up, it syncs everything. And there's like an automatic sync in the background. I just turned that thing off. So, app I'm using. Well, I just kind of want to bring it up. It's SwiftKey Flow came out, and I gave it a shot. Like, I'm a big fan of the regular SwiftKey. And I've been using the stock Android 4.2 keyboard because I actually don't mind the swiping that it does, and it predicts pretty well. But I was like, oh, SwiftKey Flow, now it's a little swipe action. Let's try it out again. I don't like it at all. I really like the Google. I like the Google version, the Android 4.2 keyboard, so much more. And I don't know what it is, but I don't feel like the SwiftKey Flow, it actually predicts all that well. Like, I tried to swipe, I posted a little video of this, but I tried to swipe the word SwiftKey like 20 times, and it never came up with SwiftKey. and it used to, when like on SwiftKey, if you type, it actually does get SwiftKey every time. But I tried to swipe it or flow it, whatever we're calling it, couldn't even get it. And like, I think the word is, or no, maybe it's. It can't do it only does is. Just little things like that. I know it's a beta and they're testing stuff, but so far the beta, I couldn't use it. I had to go back. to the regular Android keyboard. So, anybody else have apps? Ron, do you have something?
Yeah, I've got an app called AnyDo. It's any.do, and it's just basically just a little kind of task manager kind of thing, and just for to-do lists. So I've been using it lately, and it has ongoing notifications. You can flip through and see all the little to-dos that you've added, and you can click the plus button on there, and it'll jump in so you can add another thing. But just if you've got, I mean, most of the time if I have something that I need to, if I have like a meeting or something with somebody, I'll just throw it in my calendar and put a reminder in there or whatever. But if it's just stuff that I know I need to get done, reading or different writing things that have to get done or whatever, just random things that I need to remember that I have to do, but they're don't necessarily have a timeline, then I throw it in there and keep track of it. And so it's a cool little app to check out. The UI is really nice. You can add stuff with voice that's really, really accurate. And so check it out. AnyDo.
So this is one of those apps that I don't understand whatsoever. These to-do list app, because I'm like you said initially, if I have something to do, I just throw it on my calendar because then it reminds me. And I have Evernote, but I use Evernote for like taking pictures of bills and things like that, like rather than using it as a note list. But people clearly have like to-do lists and they use them a lot, right? Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things I've never done. I always just put it on my calendar, I guess. That's because it notifies me every
time. Well, because normally, I mean, for me, if it's something that I know I have to, it's got to be done on this day or whatever, calendar. But if it's something where it's like, this is something I need to do or want to do, but I don't need to or want to do it immediately, then I throw it in there just so I remember, and it is helpful for me to say, oh yeah, I do need to get that done. And so it definitely doesn't replace the calendar or in any way. Calendars are going to stay around for a while, but for, putting stuff together that doesn't need to be done immediately, I like it.
No, that makes sense. Did you want to talk about Windows Phone 8 now you've had the 8X for a little bit?
I just wanted to, real quick before you get into that, I just wanted to talk about SwiftKey real quick and just express my discontent with it as well.
Okay.
And that's it. Really, I just want people to know that Tato does not approve of SwiftKey Flow. Maybe they just need to work out some of the little kinks, I think. But man, when you're swiping through and then you go to spacebar, it doesn't get anything I try and put in. Like sometimes I'll get lucky, but other than that, that's all I had to say. Thank you.
You just had to throw out your hatred.
Yeah, because it was in my mind. I was like, man, this. I have it on all the phones because I'm just trying to like really give it a shot, but nope.
Not doing it for you. Yeah, but anything's better than the HTC keyboard on that DNA. I hate the HTC. I think it's the worst stock keyboard of any of them.
Not as bad as the one that came on the Galaxy camera. That one didn't even have autocorrect. But yeah, it was all brutal.
Yeah, that's SwiftKey Flow. It'll get better. It's just a beta.
It'll get better. So beta. Yeah, thank you, Ron. 8X.
It's I like some things about it. Is basically the gist of it. So I mean, I don't know if you guys can see this very well or not, but the start screen looks identical to Windows Phone 7 and 7.5. Nothing new there.
Going with the white background.
Yeah, I like it a little bit more.
Battery life, killer.
Yeah, worth it. But you can adjust the size of things and stuff like that, which I thought was that should have been there from the beginning. But there's a dearth of apps. You can uninstall. It comes with a bunch of random apps that the carrier throws on. You can uninstall those and completely remove them, which is great. Any Windows Phone device can do that. You probably don't want to do that because there's only about 10 apps available on Windows Phone. So you want to keep as many as you can around. No, but that's the thing that I keep running up against consistently. There are just a number of issues that still exist. Apps still have issues with if you launch an app from the start screen, it starts from the beginning. And then if you go back to the start screen or do something else and then launch it again from the start screen, it starts the app over, which that's how it's designed to work, but I think that's a bad design idea. It doesn't make a lot of sense because you're often going back to the start screen to launch other apps and do other things. So when you see that app there, oh yeah, that's what I wanted to jump back into, and then it restarts, it's a little annoying. There's little things like that. Some apps don't scale right still to the new screen dimensions. That's just a matter of developers updating them. Notifications are still a nightmare. So basically, I talked about this, I guess it was about a year ago when we did the review of Windows Phone 7.5, but it hasn't changed. If you want to get a notification, it's got to be pinned to the start screen. Otherwise, your phone will vibrate and it'll tell you'll get a little toast notification on the top, but if you're not paying attention, it's gone. So hope that you have that app pinned on your start screen, because otherwise you'll have no idea what happened. That's a huge thing, and Microsoft admitted that was a problem, but they should have been aware of that from the get-go. You need to have a place where you can see all of your notifications. I mean, it's progressed in some ways. The hardware, the 8X, I really like. I don't care for the color of it particularly, but it's good. It takes really nice low light shots. Unless you have, I posted a couple on Instagram last night. But if you've got direct light shooting in towards it, it obscures the photo, so it just takes in all that light, and it makes it for a crummy shot. So if you don't have light directly at it, then it takes a really nice low light shot. But otherwise, it's the sensor's taking in a lot of light, which is great unless you have a light in front of you, then it ruins the shot. So I don't know if that's a software thing or what, but that's somewhat of an issue. The screen is great. Colors are very faithful on there. So the hardware is good. There's still, and I'll have a full piece just kind of detailing where Windows Phone 8 is at this point and what it looks like. But it's, for somebody that doesn't want to use Instagram and that just wants to basically text and surf the web and stuff like that. Internet Explorer is decent. It does the job. But if you want to, it's, in my mind, Windows Phone is at the point where it's basically a decent replacement for somebody that doesn't quite want a complete smartphone but wants something that's internet connected. Because the apps just aren't, they really aren't there. They're all designed exactly the same. Nobody's doing anything innovative. And I'd like to find out if that's a limitation with the SDK or if, where they're all required to just have the exact same layout of swiping in between there, but that limits your gestures and that kind of thing. So it's not as innovative as it should be. It looks nice. It looks clean. It fits in with Windows 8 on the desktop. But there are a lot of holes and bugs that they need to deal with if they want it to succeed still.
So your title for your review should be HTC Windows 8X equals feature phone. And
people love that. Yeah.
They've come a long way, because I had the Lumia 900, I think it was the first Lumia.
Yeah, I had that for a while.
Yeah, and it was okay, and this seemed to address some of the stuff. But like you said, when you leave an app and go back in, it just resets it. One of the things that drove me nuts about that phone is I'd go into not the App Store, the Market, whatever they call it.
They call it Store.
Do they just call it Store?
Yeah, which by the way, the whole lawsuit over App Store and then Amazon's is all one word, and then Market, and then now it's Play Store, and I just need to find the freaking App Store. So can we all pick one name so that I don't have to scroll through this and try to remember what the name is on all these different platforms? It's super annoying.
Yeah, I've tried. Every time I talk about the Windows Phone App Store, I don't know what it's called, and it's been 2 weeks now. But when you go in and you're looking at apps and you're like, oh, I want to download, because it's a new phone. You get your new phone, you download 10 apps, all 10 apps that they have. Yep. You click install, and it kicks you out and takes you home. And then it installs it, and you can see install, and you're like, well, I wasn't done. And then you go back into the store, and it's at the main page, and you lost your place, and you were searching.
If you hit back, it brings you back to where you were, because it throws you on the start screen. So if you hit back, it brings you back to where you were. If you hold back, you can see the last, still only about 5 apps that you've used. Settings randomly disappear, so I was in Wi-Fi toggling that on and off. Then I want to jump back in there and turn it back on. That's gone from my multitasking. It's literally the last thing I've done. It's gone. These have random, I don't know if that's a bug or a feature, but it's a problem.
Yeah, that's a feature. Just random things disappearing.
Yeah, well, even this, going back to the start screen, and if you hit that, that's how I want to relaunch it. That's really not. And then when you go back to view, the last apps that you've used, you can't just quit them from there. There's no. I constantly want to swipe because I keep thinking that's WebOS, so I keep wanting to swipe them away, which they really should have done, because WebOS doesn't really exist anymore. So let's go ahead and jack as many of their ideas as we can.
Yeah, Google did.
Yeah. There's nothing to get rid of. So that literally is the functionality. You just go back to the start screen if you want to relaunch an app, which is not. That's not no other operating system works that way. So why would you do that?
It feels like it's a good base of an operating system, but there's all these little back end things or just little tweaks that need to be done to make it really good. And like you said, there's no developers, there's no apps, there's
no. And that's honestly even I was talking to I've talked to a couple people to say, would you be interested in this? And as soon as I mentioned no Instagram, they're out.
Yeah, there's a couple of Instagrams that let you browse through, and
you can browse, but you can't publish photos, which is a huge and that's a limit of their limitation of Instagram's API. But at the same time, it's you've got. But I also don't blame Instagram for not putting an app on there, because they don't have any users. So what's the point?
Yeah, and look at what Twitter opened theirs up to all these different clients and all this stuff, and now they're trying to cut back, and it's a disaster. So Instagram, I guess maybe kind of did it the right way. They just need to publish an app everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, I think Google said it best. He's like, yeah, we aren't making apps for Windows because no one's using it. Period. So until maybe people start using it or adopting it, then we'll start seeing more apps become available for it.
Yeah.
Until then, I kind of feel how you do. I mean, it is kind of like a feature phone. It's unfortunate. I really haven't even got my hands on one besides just in like a Verizon store playing with it.
Yeah.
But I could tell that it would not last long in my possession.
Yeah. There's just a lot of little things that they need to work on. Like you said, Kevin, they've got the basics for it, and it looks good. They've got the design down. That's good. But they've got to. I mean, these are issues that have persisted since Windows Phone 7 first came out, and that's the key issue, is that these are things that people have complained about for a long time that still are not resolved. That's a problem for Microsoft. If they really want to push in mobile, I mean, it's to the point their numbers are so bad that one of the articles I was just looking at for Schmidt talking about numbers, it shows all the distribution numbers. They're still combining Windows Mobile with Windows Phone because their numbers are so low.
Yeah, and a lot of times they're in the other category. They don't even.
Yes, because they don't. It's what are they going to be, the honorable mention? I mean, nobody's using their phones. So.
Yeah, it's kind of stuff. But one last point on that, you mentioned it originally. You said you can uninstall all of the bloatware, and this is actually a giant topic, and we don't need to go in depth in it. But why is it that Apple and Microsoft, their phones, you can't, because the 8X is on Verizon, so everyone knows. Why is it that with their phones, there's no bloatware? If there is, you can get rid of it all, and on every goddamn Android phone on Verizon, non-removable. And now we talked about it before we went on air. They're even blocking out the disable button. You can't even disable the damn apps now.
Yeah, which is really insane.
It is. It should be like a computer. When you buy a computer, you can uninstall all of the crap that comes on there if you want to. It should be the same.
You can still kind of circumvent that if you throw in a third-party launcher and just hide it from there. Yeah. Then, for all intents and purposes, the app really isn't there, and storage shouldn't be an issue with those apps that are preloaded. But it's still, like, the idea that a carrier has that much control over Android, that's an issue. That's a huge issue. Obviously, Google's aware of that because they don't have their Nexus on Verizon. So
yeah, they clearly hate Verizon.
I don't blame them.
Yeah, I don't
blame Am I dead?
Yeah, you're dead.
You're just blurry. You're just Bigfooting it up.
You're really blurry. Like, yeah, you're still there. You just look like a blob.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you can still hear me.
Yeah, we can still hear. All right, let's do a quick wrap up. And basically, Tim, you just have.
There we go. I'm back.
Tim, they're really excited about your announcement.
Yeah, I guess so. They're going crazy. So yeah, after the conclusion of the Droid Live show, I'm going to premiere the Tato show. I know how I don't know. I've been thinking about the name so much, but everyone was like, yeah, the Tato show's fine, but I really don't know how I feel about having my name in it. Anyways, the Tato show is just a way for me and a few of the guys to kind of let loose a little bit and not have so much structure, I guess you could say.
Like the dogs, just let loose.
They are awful. So yeah, basically I'll be having developers, a lot of special guests, Android personalities, if you will, even from people from other sites, just to kind of have on, talk about Android and be a little loose, maybe have some drinking games, we'll see, I don't know. But it's going down like 10 minutes after the end of this show. I'll put a link to, it's going to be a different feed. I'll put in the link into the IRC, that way people can access it if they want, so I'll tweet it out, and yeah, it should be fun.
After our show. How long is it? Like 30 minutes? Are you talking an hour? Are you just going to go as long as you guys feel like?
Nope, it's going to be an hour tops, no longer. I'm going to, and it's going to have, different topics and all that stuff. But basically, it's going to be an hour tops. That way we don't get too far into the night because I know the East Coast peeps are getting a little sleepy.
Getting late out there.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it should be fun. What do you got going on this week, though? Is you, Eric?
Yeah, so this week we have me, Eric Rees, of course, the man, the one and the only. We have Mr. Dave Cover, and our special guest is Steve, or otherwise known as Birdman, who is the co-founder of Roots Wiki. And yeah, so it should be a good show. We're gonna have some fun.
Birdman, haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah, Birdman.
Should be good. All right, so yeah, that's the show. Episode 9 in the books. We'll be back next week to do episode 10, and then we're actually going to take at least a week off for Christmas. Maybe the next week off for New Year's. We haven't totally decided that yet. And then the week after that, CES. And we're going to definitely do sort of a special show at CES. Tim and I will be there. That should be fun. So yes, our calendars are completely packed. It's going to be insane. I mean, it's insane every year. But so yeah, episode 9 in the books. Sorry for my technical difficulties. I know I got kicked about 3 or 4 times. But again, podcast feeds are in the post. Also, droid-life.com/show. So be sure to subscribe. So in case you're listening to the live feed, you listen to the recorded feed later, you can subscribe, all that good stuff. So anyway, yeah, we're Droid Life. Watch the Tato Show after this. Hang on the IRC. He'll post a link in there. And I think we're done.
Yeah.
It's a wrap.
We'll see you guys next week for episode 10.
Peace out.
See ya.
Later.